Hi guys, welcome to ReConfidence with Paps. If this is your first time, karibu, and if you are coming back, good to see you again. And we've been going through this series of where did your bold go? Because like we said last in the previous videos, I've mentioned it so many times. Everyone was born bold. We lost our bold along the way, or our confidence. And so where did it go? So we've done 2 episodes so far. So we'll pin the links on the description, and then you can be able to catch up on them. So the first one was your destiny and your origin, or your origin and your destination, as the places where you can check in terms of where did your ball go. If you know your destination and you're certain of it, then you live unapologetically. Like so many things just fall into place. And also when you know your origin and you have that assurance that where I came from defines my assignment in life, then you have the confidence as well. And then the second one was about the past and how your past can also be where your bold went. And there's so many people, especially childhood traumas and our upbringing experience, all those places are leakages for our confidence. And so you can also go and watch that video. So those 2 videos will give you a bit of a gist on where this is going. And so today we're going to look at the present. And when you think about the present as the place of where did your bold go, it's because the present is the most powerful asset I have to change my narrative from where I am up to later. And I really love this story of a guy called Jabez who was tired of his present. You know, he could not control his past. He could do nothing about it. This story is in 1 Chronicles. And Jabez, the Bible says, was more honorable than his brothers, but his mother called him Jabez because he had borne him in pain. And you just look at Jabez in terms of where did your bold go. His bold was in the past. In terms of his identity on delivery, I don't know whether the mother went through a complication during his birth. We don't know whether he had a painful conception story, but we just thought that he was a pain for the mother, and the mother named him after the pain. And so the Bible says as much as he was older and was more honorable than his brothers, he was still called Jabez because he was born in pain. And then he decided to do something about his present, which is very important for each one of us. You may not appreciate your past. Probably it's a place of pain. It's a place of bad memories. It's a place that some of us don't even want to go back to. But it's also a place that you need to go and resolve to get your ball back. And how you do it in the present, look at Jabez. The Bible says he prayed and he told God, oh, that you will bless me, or that you will expand my territories, or that you will remove pain and hurt from my life. And then the Bible says, and God answered Jabez. And so what if you're just a prayer away? What if you're just an awareness away from what has been holding you back from that greatness and that excellence that is in your life? And so as you think about get your ball back, remember Jabez. And then I want to bring in also another character that I really love. And remember Moses. Moses is this guy who also had a sad story. Like he has so many stories within his stories. First of all, he's born. There's a death sentence over his head when he's a baby because they're supposed to kill all the Egyptian. In Egypt, they're supposed to kill all the Israelites babies born around his time. And then he survives, and then he's down the river, and then he becomes Pharaoh's daughter. But then later, Hebrews 11 tells us he decided to not identify himself with the Egyptians, and he decided to identify himself with the Israelites who are suffering. So despite getting into all this place of probably feeling like his life is adding together, and he feels like, yeah, he's making sense of it, but then his identity deep within was into something else. And so what is most important about this story of Moses that I don't want us to lose sight of is when this time comes and he has to go and deliver the children of Israel. And then he has this burning bush experience. So you remember his story after he kills an Egyptian, and then he starts running for his life, and then he ends up in Jethro's home. He becomes a shepherd there, and then he has this burning bush experience. And so what impresses me or probably challenges me about that scenario is when God asks him, what is in your hands? You know, what is in your hand? And even later when he's going to save the children of Israel and he's feeling like he's not enough, he doesn't have enough. Get your ball back is about looking into your hands and seeing what you have. Because what you have in your hands is what you need in the present to be able to get your ball back and move confidently into the future. And so we look at Moses as a story of get your ball back in the present, because when he looks in his hands, he sees everything he needs to go into the challenges he had ahead. Like that is all he had. Probably he didn't have a neat bank account. He didn't have it together in terms of probably more credentials. He just had experiences that mostly were just looking not together. Even a low season of his life where probably he was not doing much. Get your ball back. I would want to present 5 things that you need to look at in your present to see how you can be able to check on where your ball went in the present. And so if you want to get your ball back, these are the 5 places you need to look into in terms of, are they stuck in there? And so number 1 is look above. Look above. So look above is the first posture you take. And to just remember that I came from God, and even in the present, it should make sense for me that I came from God. And that makes a lot of difference in terms of my present situations. My present probably circumstances make a lot of sense when I see them from God's perspective. And so many times, like even myself, I've been through so many situations that were not adding up and they were not making sense. But every time in the present, when I look at God, there's just something that seems to make sense. Like this year was very hard for me, probably besides 2015 and when else? Yeah, and also 2001. There's a time I just went on a retreat that was actually on April this year, and I was just looking back in terms of my life, what has been the patterns, what has been the highs and lows, and just remembering 2011 was one of the low-key moments as well. No, 2013, 2014, 2015, around there. Yeah, but then I was just newly married, yeah, to James. And then before that, there was also that time that I was out of high school and I didn't have a plan for my life. And so now this year was also the other big one. And for me to just look up and just ask God, what is this? How does it make sense? Like, it is so senseless. It's painful. It's very devastating. And I remember so many nights that I was really feeling like I'm really agonizing over the situations that I was going through this year that were a bit of more work related. And of course, just looking back and seeing how far I've been able to get past them and get a better perspective of them is seeing God. And that is why looking up always makes sense of all my experiences, because you remember Romans 8:28, all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his promise. And so if I am looking up, then everything is able to make sense, because my human perspective is limited. And it's because my human perspective is limited in terms of how I see things, in terms of how I show up. I can be very limited. But at the same time, when I look it from God's lens, it's like they are bigger lens, they are clearer. Everything makes sense from up above, instead of just looking it from being in the midst of it and in the mix of it. And so look above. And then number 2, look around. Look around. What do I see? What do you see? Yeah, there's times that God asked people, what do you see? What do you see? And it's because whatever you see is also connected to getting your ball back. People who look at problems that need to be solved. And I love talking about the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals that were developed by UN in 2015, because therein always looks like something that is around. There are 17 goals there, that are world problems, and sometimes I say they are God's problems because the world is suffering because of those 17 things. And so if I can look around and see myself as a solution to those problems, this is how the warrior within rises up. And I start seeing myself as someone who is here to solve problems, someone who is here to make a difference, someone who is here to make things right. And it really, really, really kicks in the energy in the present. It gives you the morale and the motivation you need right now, instead of just sitting there and moping over things. And there are so many times that I've actually knocked out of a situation because I was looking around at who needs me, who needs my help. And then I stopped being in self-obsessed, in self-pity, sucked in myself and sometimes my selfishness, and I'm able to get out and do something to be there for other people, even in my pain. And so that is the other place to get your ball back, is look around. And then the other thing is look within. And look within is a very powerful space, because sometimes the solutions we are looking for all around are actually within. What are the gifts that I already have? What are the abilities that are already shining through me? How can I use them to make a difference around? Because get my ball back is also looking within in terms of my internal resources that are already there. As much as probably you've gone through this situation where you've received negative feedback, you've gone through a lot of failure, whatever is within you is still intact. That's a very powerful fact in life. Whatever is within me is still intact. who I am doesn't go through the distractions of what happens to me, especially if I'm able to really process those issues and those places objectively. And so when you look within, you look at your inner resources, including even our inner resourcefulness. Like even in the deepest problem, resourcefulness is the ability to be able to see light bulbs. Even when you go into a very dark place, you're in a dungeon, you're able to see those faces. And I think one of the persons who really teaches me about resourcefulness is Paul. He's in a dungeon in Rome when he's writing the book of Philippians, the happiest book in the Bible. He's waiting for his execution. He's just looking within, like in terms of what can I even do in these limitations? And you'll say that I am in chains, but the gospel is not in chains. And so as much as sometimes you find yourself in chains of things that are not working, can you imagine your purpose is not in chains? And you can still be able to keep on going and going and going and going. And so look within and just remind yourself that those internal resources, sometimes it's all I need to be able to deal with whatever is happening out here. And so that is number 3. So I've talked about look above, and then look around, and then look within. And then of course the other thing, look behind, look at the past in terms of what has been your story. What are the patterns of your life? You look like David when he killed the lion, the bear, and then he's coming here facing Goliath. He's able to recount on how the past was a helpful experience to deal with the present. And so he's looking at how there's a connection of my past and my present. And you know what? It's because there's nothing that has happened in your life that is a waste. Everything is a resource towards your future. And that is why your past is able to make sense. Please go and watch the other video on how you can get your ball back from the past. And then when you think about the past as a resource into the present, it's because the past that has not been resolved still becomes a baggage in the present. And that is why I always encourage my friends, please go for therapy. Please go and talk to someone. Please have someone who knows everything that has happened in your life. Please have mentors in your life, people that you can really confide in, people that call you out, because sometimes I'm stuck in wrong perspectives. And by just talking to people, and talking especially to people that I really look up to, people who pour into my life, I'm able to see things objectively. They call me out. They call me out on places I need to grow and develop. And so that part of looking in the past is also being able to resolve the past without using it as a crutch to make excuses for the present and the future. Does it make sense? I hope it does. And of course, finally, look forward. And look forward is realizing that there's a whole future ahead of me. I have potential. There are many possibilities ahead of me. There are so many people waiting for me ahead. There are so many divine connections, divine opportunities. There are so many ideas that I will execute and they will change my present. And I need to live in that place of hope. And I really love this place in the Bible where someone talks about being a prisoner of hope. Like I'm in a prison called hope. No matter what the present looks like, I keep on being this crazy dreamer. I dream about the future. I keep on moving and inclining towards the future. And of course, that is the episode we shall be having in the next one. And so I hope this was helpful. Please subscribe, share, and of course, click the notification bell so that you can get more updates when we are posting a new video. Yeah, there's a lot of new videos coming up. And we'll see you in the next one. Ciao.